Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. The Miami Dolphins 53-man roster is set, kind of. I mean, it seems like there's going to be a little bit of cap jiu-jitsu that's going on. Not cap jiu-jitsu, but there's going to be roster flexibility and moves that are still happening, but they had to get their roster in by now. All right, so here are the notable cuts. Erik Ezukanma, Chris Brooks, Nick Needham, Braylon Sanders, and Neville Gallimore, who, everybody kind of thought was going to be a solidified backup guy on the defensive line. I got to be honest with you, that one was like, oh, all right, cool. That was supposed to be the big one, but even the reporters were texting me during the show. They're like, oh, yeah, that was a shocking one. I was like, oh, okay, my bad. My bad. My disrespect to Neville. I apologize. The one that really caught, I think, everybody off guard was long snapper Blake Ferguson. I didn't think the long snapper was in danger, and I believe he just signed a multi-year deal. But a bunch of reporters have come out and said that this is going to be some kind of roster maneuvering, that he's going to be back in the coming days. They got to put the practice squad together. They got some things to work, but multiple people have said, like, oh, he'll be back. Somebody else is going to move somewhere else. But that he'll be back on it, which, because like literally for like a half hour, I'm sitting here looking at this and being like, can the undrafted center, is he also a long snapper? Like I thought like the Dolphins had found some key to loophole the long snapping, which if you really think about it, look, we always have the GOAT that is John Denny, greatest long snapper that ever lived, spans and has seen so many things in his Dolphins tenure, but I was wondering with this case, like, all right, is there what's going on here with the long snapper being out? I thought that maybe one of these young guys, like, does somebody have a long snapping superpower we are unaware of that was going to get the Dolphins to loophole this roster? But multiple people are saying that it looks like Blake Ferguson will be back at some point. Who knows when, but it appears this is a short-lived cut for, I guess, for now. I don't know for sure. That's just some of the speculation that's out there that he's going to be back, unless the Dolphins have some kind of replacement that we're unaware of. But anyway, he was definitely on my like most shocking, most notable cuts, because I was just like, the long snapper got cut. The Dolphins also are putting on IR with return for designation River Craycraft and Cam Smith, and then made it official today. Odell Beckham Jr. is staying on the physically unable to perform list. The news that came out of that was that the NFL Network had reported that he had an off-season procedure the Dolphins were aware of, and so he is working his way back for that. So This is the other looks. So this is the way that the roster looks as of now with the offense. So quarterback, we know, Tua, Skyler, boom, done. Running back. Okay, this was definitely one of the big questions. Who are they going to keep in the running back room? They kept 4, 5 if you include Alec Ingold, which is how they tweeted it out on their roster on their account. But we knew it was going to be Achane. We knew it was going to be Mostert. We knew it was going to be Jalen Wright. They end up keeping Jeff Wilson. Chris Brooks, obviously dealing with a concussion. That was, I would say, like right after I got off the air today. That was reported, I believe, by NFL Network at first. Which, by the way, shout out to Barry Jackson. Barry Jackson was a monster reporting all this stuff all day. He was like the wire, like whatever was coming out. Barry, I had Barry on noties today. It was busy as hell, but the man was giving us all the news as it was happening. But Chris Brooks is let go by the team. He's healing up. Will he end up back? Look, I think we all see like the kid flash. He's had highlights in the few efforts that he's had. He runs angry, strong, explosive, but durability has obviously been an issue there. And I think if you're the Dolphins and you're thinking about, all right, what could derail this running back room? Somebody gets a little bit banged up, somebody who doesn't know the offense as well. Jeff Wilson knows these things in and out. Obviously very tight with Mike McDaniel. Raheem Mostert predicted this yesterday where he's like, I think that he's in good standing with the roster. So I think he had the inclination that his longtime backfield mate was going to be back. I don't really have a huge quibble over it. It's I love Chris Brooks' potential as much as the next guy, but it's kind of hard to hang your hat on potential when he's just never there, which kind of goes to the other one that is like the most surprising, or I don't even want to say surprising. I'd say notable guy who got cut, and that's Erik Ezukanma, because for a couple of reasons. One, Erik Ezukanma is much different than all the other receivers. You look at the Miami Dolphins receivers, they only kept 4. Tyreek, Waddle, Braxton Berrios, and Malik Washington. And so you look at that receiver room and you're like, okay, this is a very tiny receiver room. You got, 5'8", 5'9" guys down the line. Not a lot of big red zone threats there. But Malik Washington, I think, definitely showed his talent. Everybody's been excited about him. Everybody's been raving about him. And if you're keeping Erik Ezukanma, you're essentially just keeping a big body who's never healthy. It's unfortunate what happened to him last year. Everybody was excited about what he was going to do, but he's never healthy. And in fact, it was kind of jarring even to put the numbers out there because Barry Jackson had tweeted out his Dolphin statistics, and I was like, damn, it was like, because you like think of him, you're like, oh, this guy was a monster preseason player. 39 offensive snaps, 1 catch, 3 yards. You're like, whoa. So we'll see. I mean, I guess there's always a chance that he returns, but durability, obviously a big question. We can all see the talent there, but this is where the Dolphins are going to kind of make up for the size, and it seems like they're doing that in the tight end room, because the tight end room last year, they only kept 2. They only brought back Julian Hill, and they only went with Durham Smythe to start the season. This year, 4 tight ends, and they're adding Tanner Connor, which, look, Mike McDaniel's loved Tanner Connor since he's been on his roster, since he was an undrafted rookie. He's also had his own durability stuff, but he's obviously a very, very talented pass catcher. He's tried to learn the intricacies of the game, but they obviously love him as a prospect. John Embry has Mike McDaniel's ear, obviously has a lot of respect for the man. So they're trying to say hey, who are they going to be the guys? And then you add Jonnu Smith, who is kind of also a de facto receiver. It's a target. It's a target in the receiving game. So they just have more viable options in that tight end room. They add a little bit more size in that tight end room. You hope that you maybe get a little bit more out of Julian Hill this year in the receiving game. And eventually you're going to get River Craycraft and you're going to get Odell Beckham Jr. back. So that's not what they have right now is not always going to be the case, but they're in a weather the storm type of place right now. And I think ultimately, could they be kicking themselves because Ezukanma is going to go ball out somewhere else? Hey, look, he might. But I do think that when you're at this point where the Dolphins are, you already are scrounging a little bit on the durability side of things, and now you got 2 young guys who haven't really shown a lot of durability. So that's just where they're at. I think everybody realizes these are talented players. There's nothing against them. And then offensive line, the 2 things that were of note here: 1, Aaron Brewer's not on any PUP list. He's not on any IR list for right now. So that seems to be a good sign that he might be ready for week 1. You can't predict quite yet, but that is exciting. And Andrew Meyer was one of the undrafted rookies that made the team. So congrats to him. That's on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, defensive line, a lot of names wheeling and dealing today, but Calais Campbell, Deshaun Ham, Benito Jones, Brandon Peely, Zach Sealer. Not a lot of shock there. Both rookies, make it. So Mo Kamara, if there were any questions that he was going to make the team, he did. He made the team. David Long Jr., Emmanuel Ogbah, they brought back late. Jalen Phillips is on the 53-man roster. No designation there. Duke Riley, does it all. Special teams, great hair. Chop Robinson, first-round pick. Channing Tindall really had a great preseason. So good news to have him back into the fold, and no questions about whether or not he was going to make it. He really seemed to earn his way back onto the spot. Quentin Bell was kind of the darling of camp early on. And then Anthony Walker Jr., who, has been dealing with some stuff as well. Cornerback and safety, these were interesting spots because of a lot of talent. And you had some really notable guys that got let go here, one of them being Nick Needham. The report from Barry Jackson Miami Herald is highly likely that he could be back on the practice squad. So maybe really loves Miami, but been here since 2019, has dealt with the Achilles injury, versatile. And, Dolphins obviously have a lot of affection for him, but you had some young guys, Patrick McMorris, draft pick, step up, and then Storm Duck ends up being the guy out of that little trio of undrafted DBs who everybody was raving about, Isaiah Johnson, Jason Maitre. Storm Duck, best name, best player, ends up on the roster, makes the 53-man roster. Coolest name ever, maybe one of the coolest names in franchise history. He makes the team. So you got those two undrafted free agent rookies who make the squad. Isaiah Johnson, Maitre, we'll see if anybody poaches them, but I'm sure the Dolphins would like both of those guys back. They both flash some certain things. So, yeah, the cornerbacks end up being Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, Kendall Fuller, Kader Kohu, Siren Neal, and Jalen Ramsey. And then, of course, you have Cam Smith, who is on IR right now with designation to return. How will that affect things down the line? You'll have to cross that bridge when you come to it. And then the safeties, no real shocks. I mean, the veterans are all there. Poyer, May, Elijah Campbell. And then you have, of course, Snowman, and you have Patrick McMorris. But, yeah, I would say overall, not a day that was, I think, probably, the quarterback, as was through camp. The quarterback decision was the most notable. Second, you lose a fourth-round pick in Erik Ezukanma just because of durability. Chris Brooks, who really flashed at times, he ends up losing to a Mike McDaniel veteran. And then the Blake Ferguson thing, but that's kind of up in the air with some people theorizing that he could be back. We'll see. I'm not sure. But he does not make the 53 from the outset. But this is where we're at for the Miami Dolphins. It was the Odell thing, finding out that he had a procedure, I guess, look, I think sometimes the secrecy is a little bit wonky. Like, it's weird that they hold all these things up. I don't know why you don't just come out, hey, yeah, he had something worked on. It's coming back a little bit slower than we thought, instead of this whole song and dance. But football, they love their secrets. So will the Dolphins end up regretting it? I don't know. I mean, clearly there's a sensitivity there from Odell because he's tweeting about it all the time. The team didn't come out right and say it. Mike McDaniel had to make it clear that it was TBD, which was kind of odd. Like, what would have changed over the last 24 hours to not just say that? It's probably the smartest decision if he's not ready. I think they could last a month without Odell Beckham. You bring him back after the 4 games, and you see what you can produce there. But yeah, I mean, they have 2 all-world receivers who they've paid a ton of money to. So it definitely can dry up the well a little bit with your budget for wide receiver when you pay both those guys that kind of scratch. But the lack of different there is going to be interesting. And it's mostly just a height thing. Like, it's not like Braxton Berrios and Malik Washington are the same receivers as Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill because they don't have elite speed like these guys do. They're not stars like those two are. But, yeah, to have, not one of these guys be, tall enough to ride a roller coaster is a little bit odd. It's a little bit odd, but obviously the Dolphins have some reinforcements that should come down the pipe later on in the season, and they feel okay. And then you think about it, like, use the tight ends a little bit more in the passing game. You're going to use the running backs a little bit more in the passing game. Maybe that desperation wasn't quite there with the wide receivers, even though they got a lot of things and a lot of people who were banged up.